Hello and happy holidays to you. It is almost the end of 2022. As I am recording this, gosh, it is exactly 1 week to Christmas Day, which means that holidays are in full swing. People are celebrating everywhere. Actually, there's parties going on and people are very excited about it. I have done absolutely no Christmas shopping, which is quite frankly terrifying, but there we go. But maybe when I finish this, which will be my last video of 2022, I'll think of Christmas shopping so that everyone doesn't ostracize me in 2023. I have to say a massive thank you to everybody who has contributed to my videos over the year, either through commenting on YouTube, on LinkedIn, messaging me directly, emailing me, or even seeing me in person saying things. You've inspired a lot of what I've said over the years, and certainly a lot of this video, which is going to focus on my predictions for 2023. What will happen in the technology and perhaps the technology law world over the next year. Now, I went back and watched my 2022 video, and I have to say some things I was on the button, some things I got completely wrong. So take a lot of this with a pinch of salt. But given it is almost Christmas, I've been reading this, a bit of Charles Dickens. And let's see, I have a feeling that the ghosts of technology past and present are very much going to inform the ghosts of technology future as we go into the new year. So here's about 5, 6, 7, depending on how many I get through or run out of ideas, things I think will happen over the course of the next year. So number one, the most obvious thing is we are going to get some regulation in the cryptocurrency space. Now, one of my commenters on my last video, which was about the FTX woes, said it's not the fault of cryptocurrency as a concept, it's essentially some bad actors. The exchanges have been running away, that actually this is what's brought down the reputation of cryptocurrency. And crypto itself is fine, it's just the way that it's being used. And I could not agree more. That is an absolutely brilliant comment. However, I feel like exchanges became essentially run like banks, and some of the people behind them, who are these large public figures who are famous for making loads of money and essentially trying to protect the industry, have become almost godlike in the way that they were treated, and almost it felt like they were infallible. I guess for Sam Bankman-Fried in particular, it felt like he was this almost messianical figure, which is fitting given that it's almost Christmas, who could do no wrong, so that his fall from grace has been used. This story goes on and on and on, and by the time you watch this, some more things will have happened. You know, he's currently under arrest and he's facing some pretty hefty charges. Now, what normally happens if lots of people lose a lot of money in anything that the state needs to control, the state will jump in and control it. So we will see regulation of exchanges, not of cryptocurrency per se, because I think that's quite hard to regulate with its decentralized nature, but in terms of how exchanges are used and how they're allowed to operate. It'd be hard to actually enforce, because most of them are based in places where essentially the legal system is completely different to where most of their users are. But this idea of whether we liked it or not, crypto exchanges were almost being used as de facto banks with no regulation whatsoever, no real oversight of how they'll be managed, and often one person at the top, which of course means if something goes wrong, no one's really accountable, the money's probably gone, and there's no protection for consumers. So expect some regulation, expect to see crypto exchanges getting a hard hammering, I suppose, more than anything else, a bit like the people who are doing all the works in the flats around me today, but a hard hammering in terms of what they're allowed to do, how they're allowed to operate, and a real look at how they should be regulated. I think a lot of jurisdictions now are going to take this very seriously indeed, and with good cause. Hopefully it doesn't kill off cryptocurrency. I don't think it will, which brings me nicely to my second prediction, which will be more emphasis on digital currencies within states. So China's leading the way with their Chinese renminbi, whatever you want to call it, the CNY, whatever. And I think other jurisdictions will be trying to launch their own digital currencies. I almost feel a little bit like the ICO craze from a few years back, except this time it'll all be state-backed. Some of this is to try and keep up with China. Essentially, they want to be in a position where China doesn't become the dominant digital currency globally, which it may be too late to actually stop, but we'll have to see how that goes. But I think more and more states will look at saying, well, maybe we can replace cryptocurrency with something that actually has a bit more control. Whether consumers will have any interest in that, I don't know. Chances are they won't. We will have to see. Certainly, I think with the digital renminbi, there's been lots of, even in Hong Kong, there's been attempts to try and convince people to use it here, and I don't think they're doing particularly well. It's been giving out free money, but you get it in your e-renminbi wallet, and I don't know how many people are actually interested other than just use that to buy one thing and forget about it for evermore. But there we go, that's kind of how things operate. Now, staying with China, I'm going to speak about something that's legal for my third prediction. Now you will remember that, gosh, it's been 2 years. It's been nearly two. It has been 2 years almost. Is that true? Anyway, but a while ago, the Chinese personal information protection law came into force. It really has been 1 year. A year ago, the Chinese personal information protection law came into force, and then we've got a deadline. So the deadline to fix any non-compliance with the law, to make sure that if you're transferring data outside of China or collecting personal data in China, you have to abide by the rules. The deadline for compliance is the 1st of March 2023. If you have not fixed anything by then, you could be in trouble. So I think my prediction for 2023 is that soon after that, we will see some enforcement actions being taken. They may be fines, they could even be criminal penalties, who knows. I think initially they will be against parties within China. I don't think they'll immediately go after someone in the West, but you can't rule that out. But I do think we will see essentially China showing it's got teeth and that it's every much as powerful as the EU is with the GDPR. So be ready. And if you haven't thought about your Chinese data and what you're collecting and storing there, sort it out now. Go and speak to a data protection officer or a lawyer or someone just to make sure that you're not on that list of the first people who get into trouble. So staying with China, the other thing I expect we will see over the course of the next year, and it's already happening, is more decoupling in terms of technology away from China. After the issues that were going on with COVID restrictions in China, which made it very difficult to get technology products out, and Apple have had a terrible time with their iPhone, and that Foxconn essentially shut down, we will see more states, more businesses trying to reduce their reliance on China as a technology partner. Now, some of this is not just for the sake of logistics. Some of it is because there is a growing distrust of China and that technology is being misused, and fair enough. If people think that, then fine. I have to be fairly careful what I say on that front. But I think also there is a real concern that actually we're entering into this technology war, and it's getting worse than it ever was, where people don't want to give China access to sensitive technology. We've seen this with people not wanting to surrender IP when they're going to the country, which previously these sort of tech transfers are quite common. But also I think there's been concern of an over-reliance on one party after what's happened with Russia. Everyone seemed to be friends with Russia for a little while, and then they invaded Ukraine, and now nobody likes them, for good reason, quite frankly. But I think we'll see a similar concern that the same thing could happen in terms of China, and so we will see less of a reliance and a real moving away and looking for other places. Foxconn, for example, are already looking at other plants around the world they can open for their manufacturing. Now, the upshot of this is that China will then probably develop its own technologies, and we will see some interesting developments there where they try and compete with the West or replace the West in some jurisdictions. Who knows? But I think as part of this, we will also see, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this one, is that there will be a growing distrust of TikTok, the social media app that's developed by ByteDance, where there's always concern that all the data is going to China, that China's using it to influence people in America. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. What I do think we'll see is more regulation of it and people trying to ban it. Whether it will actually get banned, we will remain to be seen. So that's number 4. Fifth prediction for 2023 is AI related. There's been scrutiny of AI for a while, but it tends to be limited within specialist groups, either of lawyers, of computer scientists, of people who worry about ethics. But I've noticed in the last few weeks, we've seen more use of the Lensa app. That's the thing that you feed it your pictures and it creates AI portraits. And we've also seen more use of ChatGPT, the OpenAI tool, where you can essentially get it to write things for you and produce any sort of human. It sounds as if it's been written by a human essay or piece or article, just based on some prompts that you give to it. Now, these two things, they work in the same way. They take the data you provide, then they take data that they've been fed. They're AI after all, they're relying on algorithms and data that's fed to them. And that data is probably worked by other artists or other authors. And they use that to generate something new, which is essentially a way of automating plagiarism. And I think that's where the concern initially will come with the use of these AI tools in the art world for sure, but also in the academic world. For example, if you were late doing an essay, it would be very easy to just get ChatGPT to write your essay for you and submit it. There's a good chance that whoever's marking it wouldn't necessarily be able to tell there was any plagiarism by the way it was written. So I think we'll see more controls on that, more concerns initially, then more controls, and then perhaps we'll see restrictions on the way it can be used. In some ways, this is quite close to my heart because I hate the idea of seeing essentially artists and writers put out a work by AI, it would be kind of odd, and everything we read would be increasingly more derivative. And also it would probably affect lawyers one day. It would be easy to replace lawyers with AI. I've worked with a few lawyers over the years who often seem like they're already artificial intelligence. I'm joking. Well, I'm half joking. Okay, I'm running out of time. Number 6, NFTs. I think it's D-Day for NFTs in 2023. Either they will die out or some will figure out what they should be using them for. I think they should be used as a great way to tokenize existing assets, digital or otherwise, not be used as a way to sell very expensive JPEGs. I think that the world will slowly come to agree with me. The NFT market has crashed in the same way as the cryptocurrency market has crashed, but NFTs are still quite cool. It's a, it's a non-fungible, unique token that you can use to track something, use it to essentially prove goods. It's like having a deed to a house, but nobody can fiddle with it and it can't get lost in a flood. Hopefully that's the way they will go, but we'll see. I think it's D-Day. If that's not sorted out, then it may be the end. Which brings me to my last point, number 7, I'm going to end on. And this one is something I've talked about at length over the air. It will be convergence time for the metaverse. We have lots and lots of competing metaverses, and I've spoken about this before too. Nobody really knows which one they should be using. Nobody knows which one they should invest in. If you're building a presence in the metaverse, you've got to choose which metaverse to use. There are lots of companies trying to help with advertising in the metaverse. We will see, much as you saw the convergence of search engines, as you saw of shopping sites, we will see a convergence as to which metaverse will survive, which ones may thrive, and who will be using them. It may or may not be Meta. It might not be. I think Horizon could be in a bit of trouble, but we will see this happen. It certainly will include Fortnite, all right? Fortnite, I know people don't agree with me on this. It is a metaverse, no matter what you think, but it will include that. But the others, we will have to see, and it will be a very interesting and perhaps a very turbulent time. We may see some convergence in terms of how the businesses created them team up, but of course, a lot of them are decentralized. So that's it. That's my predictions 7 predictions for 2023 in the technology sphere, what I think will happen. Actually, one more, an 8th. I think we will see the end of the tech bro, because a lot of the things that have gone wrong over the last few months have been one person who's got lots of power in a technology sphere, and it's gone terribly wrong because they weren't accountable to anyone. I'm talking about Sam Bankman-Fried, but he's by no means the only example. Look at what's happening with Elon Musk, distrust of even him, and he's probably the richest guy and possibly one of the most powerful guys in the world at the moment, but people are not sure that actually he's the best person to have in the job at any given moment. So I think there'll be growing distrust of that. They won't be regulated. These things never get regulated, but people will become increasingly concerned with what they're doing. And maybe nobody will just blindly trust some evangelical tech figure because they think something is cool, but that's probably unlikely and would be defying anything that's been in history. And when I'm talking about technology messiahs, I'm reminded again it's Christmas, and let's face it, people do like a good messiah at this time of year. Anyway, on that positive note, that is my last video for 2022. I will see you in 2023. Let me know if you agree with any of my predictions, if you've got anything that you think is wrong, something that I've missed or something I should have added. I'm more than happy to include it on my next video. Or you've just got some cool ideas, because it'd be good to chat. This is the time of year where I like to just mess around, play video games. I got I'm going to show how much of a nerd I managed to finally get an analog pocket, which is a device that plays Game Boy cartridges. That's my Christmas present to myself, just to show that not only am I into technology and law, but I'm a massive nerd. But if you want to talk anything about that too, do drop me a line. But most of all, whatever you're celebrating and wherever you're celebrating, have a fantastic end of the year. And I'll see you in the next one. I'm sure it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster. Take care. Bye-bye.